Okay. And after country comes the people who make everything possible. We'd like to show our gratitude to all of the members of the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation, our special partner institutions, senior special partner institutions, corporate members and individual members. Through your generosity and support, we are able to bring you our sessions every week. And without your generosity, yeah, we wouldn't be able to bring everyone together and try to work towards the advancement of agribusiness and rural and countryside development here in the Philippines. So thank you so much. If you're joining us this morning, again, bright and early, we're really glad to see you this morning. If you're joining us 2 weeks later through our social media, welcome. And we hope that today's session gives you a lot of value and opens your mind to new possibilities in the Philippines. The Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation is a member-supported nonprofit organization. And as I mentioned earlier, it is through your generosity and support that we are able to continue doing what we do. If you like what you see and you'd like to gain access to our wide network of agribusiness and countryside development organizations, as well as join us for our informal sessions where we engage the speaker in more casual discussion about ideas, thoughts, and what else might be done for the Philippines, do consider joining us as a member. Our links are in the description. You can send us an email at register@map-abcdf.org. And we'd really like to hear from you and welcome you to our forum. Okay, so with that, I'd like to invite our chairman, Ernie Ordonez, to please introduce our speaker for this morning. Ernie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julius. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce one of the most brilliant people in our group, Cesar Gomez. Well, before I do that, I'd like to inform the public, including those on media worldwide later, that Julius was the moderator of a conference of the Philippine Chamber of Agriculture and Food, which had 7 different agriculture subsectors. And he led a panel about how the youth, the younger generation, should really take over and perhaps do a better job than the current generation of agriculture. He did a wonderful job. Now, going to the speaker, I'm delighted to have one of the most brilliant people in our group, Cesar Gomez, being our speaker today. He's a former vice chair of the ABCD MAP, and actually he has put in great insights on the coconut plan. And just another announcement, 1.5 weeks ago, the administrator of PCA appointed an advisor group, out of which there's one per sector and the one from the Connection to LDS, our Vice President, Big Humanity. But that plan in our foundation, the best one who can contribute to that is really Cesar Gomez. Today, he will not talk about that. He'll about something bigger. Today, he's going to talk about the Agri 2050 Philippine Challenge. He's a lead proponent of that. And just to let you know, in the past, he's known as a terrific strategic planning person, as the vice president of the very well-known First Philippine Holdings Corporation. So he's now given his talent of strategic planning to agriculture. Incidentally, he was Magna cum laude in Ateneo de Manila. And as you know, sometimes Magna cum laudes are easier to get nowadays, but during his time, there were very few Magna cum laudes. So he brings to us not only his brilliance academically, but his brilliance in actual strategic planning practice. As you saw, the First Philippine Holdings Corporation has grown greatly. They owe much of that to Cesar. Now he's going to lend his talent to agriculture. But I think he's going to go beyond agriculture. He's going to go to the 2050 Philippine Challenge. And he's kindly told us that he'll do as other speakers do. He's told us how, with his talent in all these things, he's lent some of his expertise to agriculture. And later on, Bernie will give you, especially people from abroad, his contact phone number and his contact email address, just in case you want to follow up. It's a challenge for us here to now build on the terrific ideas of Cesar. He'll talk about the goal and components of a strategy. And as our former chair said, we must now do what we can to translate what we learn here into actual results. So we look forward to Cesar giving us this talk. As we know, after this an open forum, but at 9 o'clock, we end the formal session and we continue up to 10 with informal discussions where we will actually have more discussion and probably more recommendations. On that note, Cesar, welcome back. We're so glad you're here as a speaker, and we hope to use you not only for the coconut plan, which we are now enrolled in, but more importantly, the bigger question, which is the 2050 Philippine Challenge, a long-run view that we need in this country, which we currently do not have. Okay, Cesar, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, Ernie. Thank you to Ernie, Julius, and Bernie for giving me this chance to talk again and to update MAP ABCDF about what I'm doing. Ernie asked me to spend something like 5 to 10 minutes on my connection to Agri, so that's what I'll do first. My connection to Agri is not something straightforward. I think I started after graduation from high school. 3 of us classmates during the summer time went by ship from Manila to Cebu and then Cebu to Cagayan de Oro. That was something like 1969. And then we went by bus from Cagayan de Oro to Bukidnon, and then Bukidnon to Davao. And a Jesuit priest accompanied us. And when we arrived in Davao, his Jesuit co-priest said, "Boy, you look so white with your dust and all that, you know." From there, we went by plane to Zamboanga and then back to Manila. So I was exposed. For me, I think that was my start of exposure to agriculture. And of course, 1969 was part of the first quarter storm. Okay. You had groups of various colors, the Not Them, National Democrats, pro-Peking. You also had at that time still the pro-Soviet Union, but I veered most with FFF. In fact, FFF will celebrate its 70th anniversary this October 25. After graduation from college, I worked in NEDA. I saw agriculture and other sectors from a policymaking view. And while involved in the corporate world, I kept on with my involvement with agriculture to policy, attending policy conferences and the like. After I retired, I managed a small plot of land in Batangas, Padre Garcia, 5 hectares. Over time, put up papaya, okra, talong, some vegetables, and I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, 2017, I had bleeding of the retina, and I stopped that. Part of it also, after that, sadly, my supervisor was killed, but that's for another story. So I have a strong interest in Agri, but I've expanded it from Agri to 2050 Philippine Challenge. Okay. Having said that, let me spend hopefully 15 minutes. There are 2 parts to my talk. One is a capsule summary of 2050 Philippine Challenge, and the other one is adapting agriculture to this 2015 Philippine Challenge. I normally say if there are questions to immediately ask, but since I'm pressed for time, may I request all those asking questions to put it at the end. So let's start with the slides. Okay. First thing, the 2050 Philippine Challenge, not something of the figment of the imagination. In December 2021, 4 of us wrote a letter to college students. The 4 are Francisco Romano Fame, who died this May, Epictetus Patalinhold, Professor Emeritus of UP, Paul Dumol, author, playwright, and historian, and myself. Okay. So, but we decided not to incorporate, register with SEC, and put up an office. We decided to focus first on the strategy. And that there are 3 components now. It used to be just prosperity and global excellence, but we included safety because of climate change. So the 3 challenges by 2050 are safety, prosperity, and global excellence. As focus, I underlined prosperity because that's where safety and global excellence point to. Okay. For me, the most important thing, both in the 2050 and the agri adaptation of 2050, is the mindset. Okay, the mindset. There are 5 components to the mindset. Believe sa ating sarili, believe sa sarili. If you do not have belief in yourself and we do not have belief in ourselves as a community, as a country, mahihirapan tayo. And I'd like to say, sadly, we don't have adequate belief because kita sa ating performance, talo tayo sa ating neighbors, we have poor educational system, malnutrition, okay, flooding and all that. So we have to improve our country, but it starts with having belief in ourselves. Number 2, pagmamahal sa inang bayan. Sadly, I'd like to say we don't have this also. When I graduated from college, I was thinking big for myself. When I got married, I was thinking big for my family. We were not taught to think big for our country. Walang pagmamahal sa inang bayan, which ties me up with the third point. Think big, dream big. Think big is the rational mind part. Dream big is the emotional part. This is something I keep on saying. All college students, freshmen going second semester, must be asked to write at the most 2 paragraphs. What will be my contribution to Philippine society by age 65? What will be my major contribution for Philippine development by age 65? And year on year, every year thereafter, update that. So sophomore, junior, senior, and as you graduate, and that's something you live out. So that's up from freshman down. Also go to high school and grade school and talk to the parents. Okay. The fourth important thing is management. Here, there are 3 items on management. Management should be taught to all, not just those who are in corporations and government agencies. Even the out-of-school youths must be taught management. But we must focus on the people who will manage social systems. Okay. And for me, the 5th thing is markets and governance, because we will be talking about socioeconomic development. I immediately identify my economic philosophy. It's a combination of markets and governance. And here I'd like to immediately state, I'd like to work with government. Having said that, 2050 Philippine Challenge, let me present it as a storytelling format in terms of a bridge. 2050 is the other side of a big river. And the other side of the big river is the year 2050, and you have the 3 goals: safety, prosperity, and global excellence. Now, how to cross that big river? There are 4 arches. First is formation and service program, first arch. Second arch is major social systems development. Third is national transformation agenda. And fourth is major social movement. Okay. The first arch is formation and service. I combined person and community have to go together. It cannot be develop the person or develop the community. The person needs the community from birth to death. That's obvious. Okay. However, the community also needs the person. Why? All progress really started with one or a few people. Look at science. Einstein, Galileo, Newton, Elon Musk. Look at musicians and artists. You have 1 or 2 people. So you need people to push the frontiers of the community. Now, as to the components of the formation, again, dream big for the country, and then management skills. Now, there are 3 things I'd like to point out of management skills. Those who are now handling social systems, of course, they must deliver output, they must deliver teamwork, and they must also handle intrigues, and then organization dynamics, and then integration and celebration. Okay. Let me now go to the second arch, major social systems development, MSSD. We have so many problems: traffic, malnutrition, flooding, the many problematic agri industries, our manufacturing, we don't know where they are, services, okay, land use and all that. So these are very complex issues. How do we approach them? I just have one major suggestion. Let's approach each of these as a social system. In fact, major ones, all of these are major ones, we have sub-social systems. So as a social system, we first start as a science. What's it all about? Okay. How does it work? After the science, population projection, then economic demand supply. Economic demand supply, not just of rice, corn, coconut, but for flooding, for traffic. Okay, demand. And then financing. Debt equity, foreign local, subsidy, or the component. Okay. Then number 5, we look at the ideal components, persons or groups. The idea is that birds of a feather flock together. Those interested in agri go to agri. Those interested in flooding go to flooding group. Those interested in traffic go to traffic. But okay, we have to look at the ideal components of the system in what's described above: science, population, economics. And here I'm creating a new animal. I'm calling it social systems organization. By a social systems organization, I'm referring to groups of people who come together and say, let us develop what we're interested in: traffic, flooding, increased incomes of the farmers. But there is a bias. We have to think long term. We have to link macro, micro. We have to work with government. And number 7, advocacy communications. Let me now go to slide 6, third arch. With so many issues, the idea is, people tell me, Cesar, ang dami pa niyan, ano? So I've decided to put up what's called a national transformation agenda. I listed something like 15 items. So I just go to these. Continue. Environment and natural resources, infrastructure and utilities. By the way, as I mentioned each, as recite each, think of the major social systems development format I presented in the second arch and apply this to each one. Okay. So environment and natural resources, that's climate change, infrastructure, utilities, water, electricity, transport, telecommunications, food, nutrition and health, family life. There is something I find exciting with OFWs and Filipinos overseas. Why? We normally view overseas Filipinos as the heroes of the country, right? They bring in big bucks, but they also have costs for their families. But let me bring in 3 strategic components for OFWs. 1, lowest component, while they bring in remittances, they're introduced to the 2050 Philippine Challenge. Second, strategic linkage. In their respective host countries, they think of 2050 host country challenge. And third, OFW, 2050 global challenge. Okay, so that's what excites me about this OFW, Filipinos Overseas Trust. Industries, education, science and technology, land use, human settlements, macroeconomics. Here, I give importance to this because we have to understand the macro side, fiscal and monetary. We have to know the funds available. Okay. Social communications, human development, and then SWOT. Having said that, let me now go to the 4th arch, and that's this need for a social movement. And the social movement, for me, there are just 2 important components. Let's bring it into the definition. One is a society-wide consciousness, a mood. We will improve our country come 2050 and moving onwards from here to 2050. So there's a mood. There's an excitement in society. And after the excitement, you've got organizations. Creating programs and projects. Then these things you do through social communications, and then you have social systems, networks, and then work with government. Next. For me, 5 and 6 are very important. We have to form the elite formation. We have to be aware of the elite that we're forming. And an important part of the elite formation is how citizens can participate in managing social systems. 7, pass the baton to the next generation. And finally, pride in what we're doing. Okay. Before I go to the next slide, let me mention that for me, the college students must be taught to participate in managing social systems. In our time, for most of us here, we experienced the first quarter storm. And that's ibagsak, imperialismo, federalismo, fascismo, misismo. So it's really regime change. That's still valid in terms of political analysis, no, but I'd like to expand it. Teach the college students about watershed, about increased incomes of the farmers, about the need for new growth industries going to 2050, about a new consciousness. Okay? So they must be given the skills, including stock market and capital markets. Okay. The next, in a sense, I translated the person and community into Tagalog. Pagmamahal sa inang bayan, malaking ambisyon, nakaugat sa kultura, organization management, mga positibong katangian, pagsasabuo at pagdiriwang. Basically, I made it in Tagalog. Try to visualize you have achieved this 2050. Not just the personal, but the community. Ligtas, masagana, magaling, at mga aktibo. Okay. I am putting in 2 slides because I'd like to discuss big pictures, which I'd like to challenge, especially the young people. One, economic development. The traditional economic development is that make the agriculture prosperous, and then agriculture will be a market for manufacturing. So manufacturing will have a market, and then from there, agriculture and manufacturing prosperous, you develop the services sector. Okay. In the Philippines, we don't have our agriculture prosperous. Our manufacturing is problematic. Sadly nauna ang services sector, but not in the depth and quality of the developed countries. Number 2, as a country, and especially for the young people, we have to answer, we were number 2 after Japan, after World War II. What happened? Number 3, why others are ahead? Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, what happened? And then, it's also good to have an idea of the history of the crops in the Philippines. Rice, coconut, corn, tobacco, sugar, banana, pineapple. The young college students must know how this came about. Hindi ito naging magic. I'd like to point out one thing. We have major exports of banana and pineapple, but we do not have a Philippine Banana Authority, and we do not have a Philippine Pineapple Authority. So government can be a plus factor or the negative factor, but that's got to be kept in mind. Number 5, I'd like the college students to understand, for me, CARP was not a success. In fact, I think, I'm trying to recall, the president recently condoned something like 57 or 58 billion of loans of farmers. So this immediately brings up 2 things. What happened that the farmers incurred such loans? So they did not develop the business competence. And the other side, why did banks, especially government banks, keep on lending? Okay. 6, the nuded forests. We also have to ask, why do we have the nuded forests? Okay. Next. Let's also see the bigger picture, global industries, global economy, and global politics. Then Japan, with limited natural resources, has been able to do so much. And again, they say it's because of attitude. I also would like to bring in another slide, developmental nationalism. So nationalism is not just regime change, but one, there are groups also, NEDA 2040 Ambition and DOST Pagtanaw 2050. Let's work with them. Okay. Age 25, all college seniors, freshmen must say, by my age 65, this is what I have contributed to the country. And that's renewed every year. Okay. Next. Watershed. People must know the status of the watershed. That's important. Then water, electricity. Then increased producers' income. I'll touch on this later on. Next. Then, no. Go back. Number 8. Okay. Also discuss education, essential growth industries, 9, 10, 11. Embed within macroeconomics, governance, and global excellence. So this ends my 2050 capsule. Let me go to agriculture. There's only one single focus I have for agriculture, one single goal: producer profitability and prosperity. Very clear, the operational documentation. At the beginning and end of each cropping season and for the 12-month cycle, kumita ba ang magsasaka o hindi? As far as I know, we don't have adequate government documentation. We have adequate documentation, lots of documentation of inputs, loans, fertilizers, seeds, etc. But for me, the focus should only be profitability. Profitability. Kumita ba o hindi? Start and end of cropping season, kumita ba o hindi? 12 months cycle, kumita ba o hindi? Okay. Now, prosperity, why do they bring in prosperity? For me, the producer is not just one person. He's the family. There's also the ag producer family. So prosperity for me is not just economics, kumita ba o hindi, but nutrition, health, education, and the like. Okay. Now, in focusing on profitability, I'd like to focus on the major social problems facing producers. That's why we cannot, the traditional, and I think still current perception is that yung magsasaka, bigyan mo ng maliit na lupa, bigyan mo ng irrigation, seeds, fertilizers, okay na siya. Hindi pwede. That is already a very inadequate picture. Why? We have major social problems facing producers: smuggling, graft and corruption, real estate conversion, climate change, water deficit, soil degradation, government focus on production and not profitability. Okay. If you also look at the supply and value chain, okay, I'd like to present two perspectives. One from the farmer, from farm gate till the end user. Of course, in the middle, malaki ang trabaho ng biyahero. It's also good to document the supply and value chain from the exporting country to us. Doon natin makikita, and I imagine RD can give details on that, on smuggling and the like. Okay. Import distribution efficiency. Example, SNR. Number 2, ukay. These are things. Number 3, whenever I go to new municipalities, I make it a point to go pass by the municipal hall, enter the church, pass by the cemetery, because the cemetery tells me kung maganda ang mga nicho, masagana. Kung mga nicho na papabayaan, mahirap. But I also make it a point to pass by the market, more often than not, starting with 3rd, 4th, 5th, upper, 3rd, and more prosperous municipalities. I see apples, grapes, oranges, fresh looking pa. That's how efficient the import distribution is. Producer weaknesses, they're not organized. Okay. You have the 58 billion loans condoned. Dependence on viajeros, and viajeros are also the financiers. There's lack of business orientation and discipline. And for me, a most important and not appreciated is the disconnect from society. Those of us here in MAP ABCDF know that the farmers are not earning, you know that. But kung ang kasama mo sa pamilya ay may sakit o kulang, pababayaan mo ba? Unfortunately, the focus has been on consumption and rice for the urban areas and not the incomes of the farmers. So what's to be done? Again, I go back to the mindset. After mentioning the major problems, I go now back to the mindset. Let's review the mindset. Believe sa sarili, pagmamahal sa inang bayan, think big, dream big, management, and markets and governance. That's the overall framework now for adapting the 2050 to the agri. Let's recall producer profitability and components. First, massive entrepreneurial movement. I'm focusing on entrepreneurs. Need for national producers organizations, small farmers banding together. If I'm talking to one farmer, perhaps with 1 hectare, I will respect him as a farmer, but I will not waste time with him. I'd rather talk to a farmer who has 2,000 members. Okay. But by mentioning national producers organization, it's not just the 4 farmers. They can be big producers. So I'm after the producers. I'm after a high productive, high profitability background. Okay. Area, for me, it's not just enough that you look at the industry organization. You also have to look at the area. Bring the farmers together. Rice, coconut, corn, all that. The high value crops, bring them together. And I'm inserting here land utilization and clustering. It's not enough that the farmers talk among themselves and dialogue with government. Per area, they have to see what's the land utilization and clustering. Time and again, even right now, when I pass by through rural areas, I see idle lands. I don't know how to interpret it, but I see idle lands. Okay. Next, after you organize the farmers, keep in mind, goal, farmer profitability. Second, organize the farmers. Third, a stubborn insistence on industrial global excellence. And I think this is one of the things which distinguishes 2050 Philippine Challenge from others long-term. Stubborn existence. If you do not look at global excellence, mahina ang plano mo, mahina ang industry research mo. Okay? So, there's need for strategic global research and then ramp up. This normally gets people dumbfounded. Kaya ba natin? Then immediately, I think about the mindset. Kakayanin natin yan. Believe tayo sa ating sarili. Okay? So, the industrial global excellence, global research, ramp up, look at the supply value chains, investment strategy, and then excellence discipline. I go back to this thing that we need discipline, we need business orientation. Third, so first is the organize the farmers. Second is the industrial global excellence. Third is strategic partnership with government. I think this is the weakest link, government. And I think Ernie, I was looking sa Google Cabinet. No, if there is a Pulitzer Prize for nonfiction book or for journalism, I think Ernie should earn an award already because of his Inquirer article last week. Or was it last week or this week? Wherein Ernie mentioned of unliquidated 21 to 23 billion each year of DA for the past 3 years. That is a horror story. That shows the weakness of government. As someone said, our government in the Philippines is the reverse of the Midas touch. Whatever it touches turns to garbage. Someone already said that. So what I'm saying right now that the government is the biggest weakness. Okay. Fourth, there's need for a social movement. Again, strategic partnerships, this time with civil society. Because we're asking the farmers to do a lot. Industrial global excellence, supply chain, all that. Especially for the small farmers group. Where do they get the wherewithal? The big producers will have the resources within themselves. Link up with SUCs in each province, with the private colleges, with civil society. That for me is my suggestion there. And then get business support. Now, I'd like to reiterate this agri part should be part of the national transformation agenda I mentioned in the first part. So let's not think that this is just agri alone. Okay. But it's got to be part of the transformation agenda. I wanted to put back the developmental nationalism and the big pictures, but I decided to bring out something new, really. How does 2050 differ from other long-term thrusts? Mindset. Believe sa sarili, pagmamahal sa ilang bayang, think big, dream big. Number 2, global excellence. Number 3, we reach out to the youths. We'd like to reach out to college students and challenge them. Hey, gumising kayo. Alamin ninyo ito. Kung hindi, by 2050, we might have the same Philippines. But here, I'd like to emphasize the 4th point is the community building experience. Hopefully, I can finish this in 5 minutes. The community building experience I'd like to envision with 2050. 2 parts, markets, audiences, and topics. Markets. Hindi na pwedeng kwentong kutsera, wala na tayong kritela, but kwentong angkas, kwentong grab, lolo move. Sa schools, kwentuhan. Sa residences, informal settlers, social housing, single detached, gated subdivisions. Sa beauty parlors. And sa mga government private offices, pag lunch break. So, markets yan, ha? Angkas, beauty parlors, offices, lunch breaks. Anong pag-uusapan? Ay, Mari, alam mo ba yung DRRM? Disaster risk reduction sa iyong area? Nakikita mo ba yung may sign na gano'n? Go to the evacuation site. Sabi ng isa, sana ituro sa motel. Then we tell them, naintindihan mo bang watershed mo? Importante ng tubig. Ikaw, taga Bicol, alam mo ba ang kita ng average farmer or fisherman doon? Nutrition ba? Alam mo ba kung masagana ang buhay at kalusugan sa Surigao? And most important, an attitude, all of us, yung ating lugar, kaakit-akit, ligtas, masaya, magalang, magaling, kaakit-akit, it's so nice. So while we are having OFWs continue to go abroad properly because they earn more there, we're also developing a movement to renew all aspects of the country, to all physical aspects of the country. So I say we manage the chismis of the country. Well, I'd like to end up with, Ernie asked me how MAP ABCDF can help. I call it 3-dimension investments. 3-dimension investments. First dimension is horizontal industries. But we have to identify investments, public and private. Second dimension is vertical by area. Again, public, private. We can start with agri, but from agri, we will move to support. Water, irrigation, telecommunications. And third component of investments is macroeconomics. We have to monitor fiscal and monetary. That's it. This is a rushed presentation, so I'm ending there now. I'm opening myself to questions, suggestions, comments. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ernie. Thank you, Julius. Thank you, Bernie.
Hey, thanks very much. So the floor is open for questions. We have a few minutes, maybe for 3 or 4 questions in the formal session. Just a few quick reminders. Let's try to limit ourselves to 1 question, and maybe I'll allow 1 follow-up if in case there's if it's related to the initial question that was given, but otherwise let's try and give way to other people as much as possible.
Okay, Cesar, welcome. Okay, you're concentrating on the producers' profitability, no? Okay. So there are many factors that affect the profitability. One of them, major, is the price at harvest time, or the price that is bought at by the trader or viajero from the farmer. Now, I think the difficulty is that there are very few financiers. There are very few financiers for the individual farmers. So naturally, they rely on the viajero and the traders for financing for their crops. Naturally, again, when you are selling,
Kagabi.
It's a bargain. You're bargaining. There's supposed to be a negotiation. But what since the farmer has to go back again to the viajero for another round of loans for his next harvest, naturally the viajero has the bargaining power. He has the money, he who has the gold rules, di ba? So the poor farmer is always at the short end of prices, and the viajero, of course, buys low, natural, and then it's high. So if you go around the countryside, who are the richest people in the rural areas? It's the in between, the middlemen, basically. Although they do a lot of service, the middlemen, they're not to be disgruntled for that. But what I'm trying to say is that government should come in massively to step in, and that should be the role of land bank, to go really to the rural areas and lend to the farmers, so that the traders are not the ones to be financing, and then the farmers can have a better bargaining position to get better prices. Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you very much, Oscar, for your question. Let me answer that on two levels. One, my stubborn insistence on documenting profitability. For any undertaking, from the start to end of the cropping season and for the 12-month cycle, there must be documentation on loss or profitability, which we don't have. So that is my stubborn insistence on this goal, producer profitability and prosperity. Now, on the second level, for me, it depends. This is where I can get to be a bit theoretical or falling back on existing programs. My response to the farmers at the mercy of the Beros is clustering. You have to band together. That's clustering. And number two, I call it a macro-micro perspective and secretariat. Assuming that you're expanding your numbers and you're expanding the scope of your production area, then you can search, let's say, through the internet for possible loans, more available loans. So those are my two responses: a stubborn insistence on documenting profitability, and number two, clustering. And with clustering, you link up with persons, agencies outside of your physical area. I mean, what comes to mind also is that at the start of the pandemic, we had the food kitchen, and people from the urban areas were putting up kitchens but tying up with farmers. So that's my answer to you. But it's nice that you brought it up. Thank you.
Okay. Bernie, are you good?
Yeah. Sorry for that.
Problem.
Cesar, my question or my comment is, since you've had a long association with FFF, I suppose you already floated the idea to them. What was the response or comments that you were able to solicit?
While I have ongoing interaction with FFF, it was only very recent that I got an update from them. And I was surprised that they're still within the mold of their father, Jeremias. Let me be very concrete with what I proposed to them, which might be an eye-opener or a shock. Sabi ko, don't be stuck by your cooperatives, size of your cooperatives, paid-up capital, all that. Per industry, package major agribusinesses, even if you have only minor ownership. So per industry package, and then link up with the farmer-oriented investment bankers who will help package the loan. So for me, I'll be attending the 70th anniversary this October 25, and I will reiterate that you have to go out and beyond the cooperative framework and tied down by the number of members you have and the paid up capital and all that. No. Plan big per major industry, agri-industry, and per major area. So that's something new. That's something new. Later.
Okay. Sige. I see that Dean has raised her hand again. I think we have time for one more question. Dean? Sorry, you're mute.
Okay. Yeah, okay. When Bongbong was about to sit down as president, the World Bank announced June of 2022 that it granted $171.1 million loan, which is equal to about 9 billion, for addressing stunting and malnourishment. Okay. It was approved at the time Duterte was stepping down. Can the foundation not request for a loan to address all the financial needs of whatever agriculture needs? I mean, if Bongbong will be there for 5 more years, I mean, if World Bank gives us another loan to address precisely some of the issues that were raised to the foundation, even if it takes a year or two, it's still better that we act and try to get a World Bank loan
I think that's
equivalent to the
Sorry.
9 billion pesos for just 273 municipalities, mostly in Visayas and Mindanao. Thank you.
I think that's not for me to answer. I think it's more for the MAP ABCDF officer.
Yeah, for the map.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. May
Yes,
we
sir.
do that after the end of the first hour? No, the floor is now Cesar's. There are a few minutes left. Let me just tell you, Cesar, that's one of the most brilliant expositions I've heard as to where the country should go. And I think what we will do, Cesar, is that since we're now connected more strongly now than before, we'll bring your excellent treatise, no, to at the minimum the Secretary of Agriculture, and later on it may be higher. But it's totally excellent. And I think the next step is that we will now break down the specifics into possibly the low-hanging fruits where we can take action immediately. But it's a fantastic. I mean, it's sort of like when you speak into Singapore, when you speak like you're speaking to the nation. It's so thorough and fantastic. ABCD will help by bringing this to the decision makers at the minimum, Secretary of Agriculture. And then we still have to do the next step, which is breaking it down to the low-hanging fruits, because by itself, they will not be able to really do it very well the way you want to. So I'd like to say thank you for that exposition. We're so glad you're back. And we have two things we need from you. One, you must now get into the PCA, because I said our Vice President, Vicky Weineke, is in the 6-person advisory group, right? Where they gave us an office and 3 desks and all that. And second, this one, the bigger thing, we will now bring it to the higher ups, because if it stays in this forum, it is kind of useless. You know what I mean? So we got to bring it to the people, and with our new leverage, no, we are closer now than before, especially in the coconut area. But even for the agriculture, no, there was once an order that the Secretary of Agriculture must meet every month. I've never seen it before, saying that they must meet a certain group, and we're included. And then it stopped because we decided not to continue, because we were very different in terms of orientation from the former DA secretary. But whoever the incoming secretary is, I think was bringing to him. So, Cesar, we look forward to your involvement. Congratulations, the totally fantastic treatise. Thank you.
Ernie, the 2 minutes, the video is okay. So before we end up, I'd like to play that.
Please do that. Yeah, Mr. President.
I didn't have a chance to edit it, but I find it something to be proud of. Okay.
Please do. Please do.
Ano naman yung sound? Bakit? Ha?
Meron na yun.
Meron?
Bakit wala lang po yun?
Bagong lumagana, pangbagong umaga. Kita ng yakap sa bagong pag-asa. Sa bawat nilalang, may araw na lahat, pati tumarahil ang ating hirap. Ang gabi naglaho, tuluyang lumisan, dapat ay limutin na rin ang tampuhan. Nakakailang pangarang sa matang luhaan, kaya't habang mukhang niwayway, buhay dampian. Bagong lumagana, pangbagong umaga. Kita ng yakap sa bagong pag-asa. Sa bawat nilalang, may araw
Ang kasi nung Zoom yun.
Okay, that's it.
And I think we should end the formal session now. Yeah. Let me just end the formal session, and then we can continue with our questions in the informal session. So first of all, thank you so much, Cesar, for sharing your insights, and we'll continue our discussions moving forward. Just a quick reminder to everyone, I am going to say a few things because we have to end the formal session. For those of you who are joining us online, unfortunately, this is what you can get for free. If you'd like to join us for informal sessions, as I mentioned earlier, do consider joining us as a member. But for the rest of the audience, after I bid the online participants that will be watching 2 weeks later goodbye, please stay on if you can for the informal session, unless of course you do have to get to. Okay, so first let's show our certificate of appreciation for Cesar Gomez. Okay, so the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation, in partnership with the Management Association of the Philippines, together with our special partner institutions, senior special partner institutions, corporate members, and individual members, all present this certificate of appreciation to Cesar Gomez for his invaluable support in the advocacy and promotion of agribusiness and countryside development, and for his commendable and unselfish services rendered to this foundation as our resource speaker on our 39th weekly online meeting of 2023, given the 17th day of October in Makati City, Philippines. Signed, Ernie Ordonez as our chairman and myself as president. Okay, and now may I invite everyone to please turn on your cameras, switch over to gallery view, turn on your cameras, please, and give us your best smile so we can take a photo of today's session. Elsa, Richie. Okay, Vian, please.
All right po. You only have
Yes,
one
sir.
page. Intro po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you po.
Okay, and do we have a topic for next week already?
Yes, by Ramon Uy, who will talk about solar-powered irrigation systems.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Bernie. So for those of you who will be joining us next, so please do join us next week for our topic on solar-powered irrigation by our very own Ramon Uy Sr. of RU Foundry. So very interesting topic for us to be taking a look at, especially considering one of the things that Cesar had already brought up earlier is lack of access to utilities that hampers the country. So this is probably a way that we can look into that. Okay. So
The soundbite. We must invite Nia to come. They have a very good head now, and nothing will happen if it stays with us. We gotta go out. So we'll ask Vivian to ask Nia, who said was our guest speaker, twice to attend. He already took the board so that it really happens. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll shoot Eddie an email inviting him to join us. Okay. So with that, I have to end the formal session, unfortunately. If you are joining us through our online uploads, through social media, as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, this is the end of what you can get for free. If you are interested in joining us for our informal sessions where you can engage with our speaker and our other members, as well as gain access to our network of agribusiness and countryside development organizations.
Sorry. Again, we promised the audience globally that we would give Cesar's phone number and email. Bernie, we said that. Could you please state through this video, state verbally the phone number of Cesar Gomez?
Okay, 0917-813-0404. 0917-813-0404. And email address czgomez123@yahoo.com. czgomez123@yahoo.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much for that. Again, if you'd like, well, you can get in touch with our speaker through the contact details that have just been dictated. But otherwise, if you would like to gain access to our speaker in our informal sessions so that we can discuss more casually thoughts and ideas that you have based on the session, or you'd like to gain access to our wide network of agribusiness and country development organizations, do consider joining us at the member. As I've mentioned earlier, the Agribusiness and Countryside Development Foundation is a nonprofit member-supported organization, and it's only through your generosity and support that we're able to keep bringing you our sessions every week. If this interests you in any way, our links are in the description. Please send us an email to introduce yourself, and we'd be very happy to have you on board. Okay, so with that, thank you very much to all those who are joining us for the formal session. If you do have to go ahead, you have other appointments. We'll end here and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.